What's up, my dudes? Basic ass Fender Boy here again with a review of 2020 RF Denver. I think that's the round we're on now. This is really bizarre. Still racing on MX Simulator when they're literally haven't been racing in real life for like how many weeks now? Is it like 3 or 4 weeks? Either way, yo, RF, just got to tell you a little something right here. RF track makers, dog, listen. I said make the jumps 10% bigger, not 369% bigger. You understand what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing here with these jumps, dog? You kind of started this whole Spencer Turley epic size jump, Lunar Oasis jump to another planet and back with the last round with Seattle. And listen, I'm a big jump lover. I'm a big daddy fatty jump lover. Quad daddy lover, okay? That's like literally what I love the most. It's not so much how big you're making the jumps. It's like you're trying to make these big, it's like they're so peaked out and the transitions are so small for the overall scaling of the track. You understand what I'm saying? It's like you've kept this kind of small lane, shorter lane, cramped down scaling, but you've just amped up the peakness of everything, so then it's just made it like, it's not really just made it more skill gappy and difficult, it's almost made it more janky to me and more unpredictable. Like, there's a big difference in making something difficult and making something unpredictable. You understand what I'm saying? And this track and the last track with Seattle, they just feel like unpredictable. The jumps feel very, it's like it's just so abrupt. Jump up, down, right? And the transitions are so close together that if you're even, just one little remote tick not landing down perfectly down that jump face, you're just going to flip over instantly. So, I don't know. I just, like, by all means, make skill gappy jumps, but damn, dog. This is not just skill gappy jumps here. This is like, you literally feel like you're hitting, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Just the most insane, crazy, ramped up, kickered out jump faces that you've ever hit in your life. It's almost like the bike can't even handle it. You know what I mean? It's like how close. That's the biggest problem, I think, with the whole thing right now. It's not how big the jumps are per se. It's the transitions in between the jumps are way too close together. So that's what creates that, ramp up, down, land, ramp back up, down, land, ramp back up, and we're like literally still fucking doubling in rhythms because it's faster. Like, we're kind of running into that issue again. So I don't know. Really thought they had learned their lesson on the last round with that being like way too crazy, peaked out jumps and, way too close together transitions. It's just in a way, by the way, I hit that quad in this section right here, but it's not worth it at all. It's not faster at all. It's way faster just to do the triple up the inside. So even with the bigger jumps, there's still really no big lines that are even worth it. Therefore, telling you you've designed the big jump skill gap wrong. If there's no way to hit a bigger line, hell, we're still doubling in. We're still doubling in, dog. Like, man, I don't know. Very bizarre track right here. Very, very bizarre. Just weird because it's like, yeah, I want bigger jumps. Like, yeah, I've been telling you to make bigger jumps this whole time, but there's a difference in big fatty jumps, big jump lines, like what you see on some of those BAC tracks. There's some big lines you can hit, but it's not this crazy, like, jump face, rocket you to another dimension and back, and 360 no-scope backflip main triples. It's just like, it's like how abrupt they're making the peaks is the issue, in my opinion. It's just so abrupt that you feel like the bike is, it's like, you feel like you're ramping off of a rock wall or something, you know what I mean? It's just like, boom, just so abrupt. Like, you can have big jumps, but just make that transition a little longer. Make it where the bike can actually flow through the rhythms. That's what it feels like. It feels like the jumps have kind of lost their flow in a sense. because they're so abrupt. It's like it's really like it's impossible to land shit like perfectly and actually be able to really like carry momentum, and because everything is just so abrupt and small short transitions, right? But either way, interesting little landing dragons back to whoop section right there. That was bizarre. That main triple is, whew, that thing's hossing, dog. Yeah, we all ended up still going inside right here. Little on-off, triple, then triple to the inside. So, yeah. And as far as the traction, why does it feel like I'm literally riding at Southwick? In this whole area right here, like after you come over this wall, like traction feels okay through here. But then it's like as soon as you hit this right here, like all of this feels like Southwick. It's like super friction. The bike's barely moving. I mean, I get you can have a sand section, but like what? And it feels like they've carried that Southwick feeling all the way through here, all the way up over the finish line, and then all the way through here. I don't really know what exactly they did, but really bizarre. Seems like they've been changing the traction for the past 5 rounds. Every single round, it's a completely different traction. So, like, they had a pretty slick traction like 4 rounds ago. And then in Detroit, they got like super concrete traction, so you could get traction everywhere. And then the last round, I felt like that traction was perfect. Even though the jumps are way too crazy, like peaked out and everything, I thought last round's traction was demortally perfect. That to me felt like normal MX Simulator traction at Seattle, right? But then on this track, we're back to like a super friction. You feel like you're riding a 50cc bike through all this, even when you're on a 450. You know, it's just like super deep sand filling. I don't know why it feels like, it shouldn't feel like that on a Supercross track, dog. Like, that's too frictiony. Feels too much like deep sand. Man. Either way, I think the traction on damn near every one of these tracks should have been like a Seattle, like their Seattle, the last round's traction, or like Detroit's traction, either one. Both of those were like pretty solid, but now we're back to a little bit of a bizarre traction here. So either way, they're going to have to get it together, man. I don't know what this is. Like, I mean, this is so polar opposite from like what Anaheim 1 was this year. It's not even funny. I mean, this is just like, could not be more different if they tried. Seriously. Like, it's insane. It just feels like it's like there's a different person making the track every week. That's what it feels like to me. There's no real, like, coherent, consistent track building this year. It's just always something drastically different, whether it's tractions, whether it's jump faces, which, you know, and they've needed to do some of that with a lot of their tracks, like I've been talking about. They've needed to make the traction a little more tractiony, not so slick, slide out everywhere. They've needed to make their jumps a little bit bigger, a little bit. Damn, baby, all I need is a little bit, not 300,000% more. You know, it's just like they're trying to like figure out that balance, and they're really struggling, it seems like. I really just don't think this is going to be the way they build jumps and transitions like from here on out. You know what I mean? I just don't think this is the model for these RF tracks from here on out. I think here in a round or two, they're going to have it all toned back. Hopefully they don't tone it all the way back to, you know, 1 foot tall Anaheim 1 jumps, but it's just like, I don't know. They're struggling. They're struggling with these tracks. Yeah, they built up the berms. I'm happy about that. Finally, we have some berms in some of these corners, but it's just like everything, you know? They've had to try to figure out how to do berms again from the ground up, because we literally didn't have berms at all for like the first 3 or 4 rounds. So they've had to figure out how to do berms again. They've had to figure out how to do actual real traction again. With, you know, we started with like a super slick, bizarre traction. Then we went to concrete. Then we went to good traction. Now we're back to like sand traction. Kind of all over the place on that. They've had to try to figure out how to do traction again. You can obviously see they're having to learn how to do jumps again. They're having to learn how to do jump transitions again. It's like we've literally started from nothing and trying to make RF tracks again from nothing. Like no previous experience. It's like people that have had no experience at all making RF tracks or trying to make RF tracks. That's what this whole 2020 season has felt like. I don't even really know how you can argue against that, how you can deny that. Maybe if you just haven't really raced in this game for the past 5+ years, I guess you don't really understand. But like typically it's not this inconsistent and all over the place with jumps and tractions and whoop designs, right? The beginning of the year, the whoops were literally nothing. Now they're like just insane, janky. I don't even know, dog. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would rather it be skill gapped and janky versus not skill gapped. You understand what I'm saying? I would always prefer skill gap over not skill gap. So I would definitely prefer riding on this than a lot of those easier tracks. But still, the jank level of this is like on another dimension with these jump rhythms and some of the peaks and like transitions and stuff. It's pretty wild, dog. Pretty wild on this track. So either way, hopefully they can get it together. But yeah, this 2020 RF Supercross season, it just seemed like a learning year for them. It felt like a beta. It's felt like a beta testing year as far as track designs. Like, I don't know. It's really bizarre. I wasn't expecting this. So we'll see if by, like I said at the beginning of the year, in 2020, they didn't really know what they were doing. And here we are, how many rounds in? 14. We can still see they're still trying to figure it out because they're still kind of all over the place with tractions, jump designs, corners, all that kind of stuff. Whoop designs, right? Pre-made, all that. A road. I mean, it's just like everything's just kind of scattered. It's just been every other variation you can imagine of all those things, right? So hopefully in 2021, they'll have it all a little more coherent from the start, a little more consistent from the start. Just that traction you just expect, that good traction like on a lot of those BAC tracks and, you know, like what Seattle had, this RF 2020 Seattle track, and jumps that are like skill gapped, big line jumps, right? Some bigger jumps, but not so peaked out, janky, close together transition. Whoops that have bigger whoops that have skill gap, but they don't have the weird jank feeling to them, right? Berms that are big enough, you know, not just the super rolled off berms, and the traction helps with making the berms feel bigger, right? Just a lot to it, but I don't know, real bizarre year of Supercross tracks for MX Simulator. I'm definitely, I mean, at the beginning of the year, you remember me saying, like, dude, it's going to take them at least half a year or more to get their crap together with all these track designs and stuff, just from the way A1 looked. But I honestly thought they were going to get it together quicker than that. There's just no, like, I mean, look at how sharp that is right before the face of that. It's almost like you've got, like, some kind of, like, washed out bottoms, washed out, like, kickered out transitions or something. It's really bizarre. There's no like smooth flow to the rhythms, right? And you can have smooth flow to big jump rhythms. You can. But you just have to expand everything a little bit. Expand the length of the rhythm sections a little bit so you have room to make those smoother, you know, smoother transitions, even if you are going to have bigger jump faces and stuff, right? But they haven't really seemed to have done that yet. So I don't know. Either way, it is what it is. That's my opinion on it. We need the traction from Seattle, the jumps from Detroit, but like 10% bigger, okay? The corners from like Detroit, right? Minus the two really flat ones. The corner after the main triple at Detroit. If you have all that together, even the whoops at Detroit I thought were okay. If you have all those elements kind of, it's crazy how they've got the right things, but it's like all scattered out in like 7 different tracks. You know what I mean? If they would just take the right things from the 5 or 6 different tracks that I'm talking about and put all those things into one track, it would be an amazing track, right? But that's the thing. It's like they're trying to test these waters and do these, let's try this traction. Let's try these kind of jumps. Let's try these kind of berms. Let's try these kind of whoops. So it's like certain tracks will have good of one thing, but then terrible of everything else. Or it'll be like good traction, terrible jumps. Or it'll be terrible jumps, good corners. Or it'll be, you know, amazing traction, terrible whoops. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they're kind of struggling to get it all into one track. So hopefully they'll be able to get that in the future, but either way, that's my opinion on the new track. You know what it is, boys. Appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.